Welcome back, folks. Welcome back to the Cliff's Edge, as we like to call it. I miss this. I really do. I don't miss everything else. If you read a Substack of mine, which I'm going to use for the basis of a rant today, we'll get to that. But I don't miss everything else about this glorious country of ours. But I had a great 10 days in Sicily and Rome. There's some family from Sicily, so don't mess with me if you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about? It's on the wife's side, so I can't even push that. But I love it over there. I love it, and it helps bring out perspective. So I'm going to give you some of that perspective. I wrote about it, but that was a good segue in terms of vacation because hey, in Sicily, you know what? When they in Italy, let's talk about the whole country. You get 4 weeks, 20 days of vacation when you start a job.
Che come faccio le vacanze le devono fare loro.
Abbiamo bisogno anche di quelle vacanze, a scaricarsi dello stress e poi si rientra a lavorare più sereni, più tranquilli.
Do you mind paying your employees for all this time off?
No, assolutamente no.
È un piacere, è giustissimo.
no.
È giusto, è un loro diritto e per noi è un grosso piacere.
And the reason for that is, and as I talked about in this Substack I wrote on our somber lives here in America, how the right killed happiness, is because of the fact that both personally, they have convinced us through disinformation, through 50 to 70 years of psyops warfare, to believe that everything that is good is about making money, is about consuming, and is about work. And then on the political side, they convinced us of, it all interacts, right? That same conservative mindset has led us to elect people like George W. Bush and Trump, obviously, now, who's trying to end our democracy. And worst of all, not worst of all, Trump's worst of all, but worst of all, in terms of when we made that change and who we were, was Reagan. Okay. Now, going up through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, we were similar to Western Europe. You won't believe this now, I know, because if you're not, you kids out there, I was too young really to know about it too. Sadly, my first memories are mostly during Reagan, and he was already changing our culture to a much worse individualist, consumerist, selfish, my right to do whatever the hell I want, get taxes off of me. And then what you do is you get actually, how the right always pisses off. I think they're now the Wachowski sisters, who are the Wachowski brothers, who made The Matrix, where they always use a little red pilled thing. Yeah, well, they're the ones who are living in and it's weird because blue pill land. If you use it the way the Wachowskis did, and you get red pilled, is when you realize how fucked we are here in America. Over there, I can't explain to you. You get there, first of all, there's a palpable ease in the air. People are friendly. They're happy. They're taking siesta during the day. Why? Because they may have gone out the night before and tied one on with some friends, because you can do that. Remember, like hanging out with friends during the week? Yeah. You can do that over there and drink and have fun. They've got disposable income, even if they make middling incomes. Why? Because you don't sit there and say, oh my God, I might go into debt if I have an injury. I slipped down those stairs. I had a member of my family fall downstairs. I know that'll shock you with my technological expertise here as it is. This is one of the last times we went. We went to a hospital. There was an ankle twisted, and the doctors spent more time arguing about whether they could figure out how to charge American insurance and whether they should bother than actually even treating the patient, who was treated immediately. And then once she was treated, they're like, nah, we're just not going to charge you. Didn't charge us anything.
Italians have one of the highest life expectancies in the world. They live 4 years longer than the average American.
It's hard to really explain to people what it feels like, the lack of stress when there's no such thing as medical debt, because of course there's not. There's not in any other Western European country or Australia or Canada or Japan or really any first world democracy. Okay. There's no such thing as, oh my God, how am I going to send my kids to college? So like the minute you reach puberty, you're basically stuffing all of your money away, because that's what you got to do, because 25 years down the line, a child may want to go to college, or 40 years down the line. You better start saving now, kids, especially while Trump's in charge of the stock market. Not really in charge, but you get what I mean. Trump tariffs. Yay. So yeah, you have to do that. I told you about the 20 days off from the beginning. You get 10 months off right away for maternity or paternity leave. We spoke to a good friend of ours there, and she is a high-powered lawyer. She would get paid up to I think 20% of her salary for up to the first 12 years her kids were alive. That's right. And she'd work a lot less and she'd get paid a lot less, but they would still support her because the difference is they didn't give up on life. They understand that living is a thing, leisure time is a thing, right? Not having guys show up in fucking masks and grab people off the streets or farms and throw them into a truck is not a thing there. And they've got Giorgia Meloni in office, who's probably the most right wing person they've had as prime minister, maybe since Mussolini. But she has said quite clearly she's against abortion, she's against gay marriage, but she's not going to touch either of those things. Why? She's smart enough to know the vast majority of her population's for it, and they don't have these little sort of tricks like we have here, like gerrymandering in an electoral college and Senate, 2 Senate seats for the 4 cows that live in Wyoming and crap like that, so they can keep winning based on minority issues that like 25% of the people support. So she's come out quite clearly and said she will respect the constitutional republic. She believes her positions are ones that the majority accepts. She's wrong, but they will do things through the means that you do them in a democracy. She also, by the way, talking about conservative parties that actually still represent regular people and don't just stick their heads up billionaires' asses. She saw that there was a sort of debate over the fact that freelancers, people like me, like we would call entrepreneurs, freelancers, were paying the same tax rate, 43%, as everyone else. But they weren't getting some of the same benefits that you get from your workplace because I haven't even come close. Family, medical leave, sick leave, you get right away. You get a ton of vacation days. I mean, my God, the list goes on and on. They actually treat workers like workers, again, like we used to here, treat them well. So, she decided that that was unfair. So their government, imagine doing this for a lot of people that make less money. It was up to 85,000 euro you could make to be part of this. They lowered the tax rate from 43% to 15%. I want you to imagine Trump, Bush, Reagan, any one of these ignoramus, freaking pot-bellied jerk. I don't want to go into a bunch of cursing, so I'll just say imbecilic, supply-side dumbass. I just did it. Republicans trying to actually help people making less than $85,000 a year. Can you imagine that? You can't, because they don't. They lie about it a lot. They're great at lying and pretending they care about regular people. So that's what happened. And the key to knowing all of this is if you study history, and I do, you know that during the 50s and 60s and even into the 70s, Pinochet, we went after Fidel Castro, Guatemala, the fruit company there, Angola, Iran, that hasn't blown back at all. We replaced governments. We used disinformation, mass warfare of information and propaganda to convince populations to sort of those cleaves between them, to increase the divides, split people up, and help those, the ones that we wanted in power, win, who often sucked and were corrupt and frankly every bit as bad. Sometimes the democratically elected governments are actually far better. Sometimes they were Stalinists and they sucked. Doesn't mean we should be getting involved in that when both sides are awful. But the point is you see it in our polling how all of our views changed. And that's why I get so angry at mainstream media. And when people sort of try to pretend, Republicans are just better at this or that or whatever. I mean, the Democrats are too weak. That's true and whatever. But mainstream media doesn't tell people the truth. And the right lies constantly. And they've built an ever bigger propaganda machine. Remember, there are some key years in there I always like to point out. I think it was 73, Heritage Foundation, ALEC, a bunch of other right-wing organizations were created. And they hacked America. They knew that a lot of working class voters that supported Democrats they could appeal to ancient racisms. And, even those that had sort of gotten past that, they could go lie to them about what was going on and separate them. And that was a Southern strategy and other things. But if you don't think there was some, let's call it former military members, the way Mike Flynn's doing what he's doing now, just know that William F. Buckley was a former CIA agent who worked under E. Howard Hunt, and the CIA who was part of Watergate for Nixon. Hate to get too conspiratorial here or truthful. Know that the CIA originally put some funding into the American Spectator magazine. God knows what they did from there on. We don't have all of it, but I promise you they get backing again and again because they knew what worked in other countries to stop liberalism, to stop leftism from moving forward. And they did it to us. We could have that life. We could have the vacation time and enjoy each other's presence and not have, a fascist turd in office right now with that fecal colored tanning spray he has on his face. We could have that. But both politically and personally, we have been brainwashed. I mean, I mentioned in the piece that I wrote in Substack, and again, blueamp.co, that is blueamp.co to go subscribe to the Substack. Also, Cliffs_Edge to subscribe to YouTube. Please do that too. But I wrote in there about people when I graduated from college, and I graduated from college with a very sort of, a business school was a big part of it. And like everyone was bragging not about what they'd create, what they would do, what they would accomplish. It was like, here's how much money I'll make, especially like the investment banker Wall Street types. Dude, I work 90 hours a week. How many hours do you work, man? I work 95. Oh my God. Like, should I just start reciting the greed is good speech right now? Like, this is how they define themselves. And I just can't tell you what it's like to go someplace where you sit and have a cup of coffee and just look at people and relax and talk about things and see your friends and enjoy your family and don't worry about medical debt. Don't worry about some, ridiculous Jabberwocky-ish lummox sitting on the White House having a fit and pooping his pants and deciding he's going to put 127% tariffs on Brazil. You don't worry you're going to get sick and you might miss too much work and they'll fire you. You don't, I mean, these things don't exist and they go hand in hand. And I may be talking about Italy now, but I lived in the south of France. It is the same in France. I've spent time in Spain, same. Greece, Spain, same. Sweden, same. Belgium, same. Japan, same. Canada, same. Australia, same. New Zealand, same. You can go on and on and on. South Korea, same. I mean, it's ridiculous. We are abnormal. Okay? We do not live normal lives. This is not how people are supposed to live. They're not supposed to be stressed, depressed, anxious, scared all the time, worried about that next bill coming in. This is not how it's supposed to be. It's not how it was, even though we suffered from racism and sexism and all that, when we truly were a country that economically supported the working and middle class from the 1930s to the 1980s until the right wingers were able to hack our culture and change all of that. And that, as much as getting rid of Trump, has to be what we get back to. Otherwise, this country, you'll never understand why you're bothering here if you spend some time abroad. I spent a lot of time abroad, but the thing that really struck me this time is under Trump and the cruelty of the Republican Party that's gotten even so much worse the last few years, how much worse it's even gotten. I mean, we are ridiculous. And if we don't fight this fight, if we don't win, I've asked you all to support us to please get a paid subscription to our Substack. We are 23 away from 1,000. We'll get a nicer check and they will promote our work that much more. We have a sound check fund with up to $10,000, that's been put into it to support smaller creators. We are going to be trying to be part of the solution here. But if we don't all solve this together, I got a kid with a couple more years in high school, and got to tell y'all, I'll be living in San Marco on a mountain in Sicily in 4 or 5 years, or I'll be living in Villefranche-sur-Mer, right next to Nice, overlooking the water. They filmed Dirty Rotten Scoundrels there. If you need to understand how beautiful it is, but this is no way to live. And I was reminded of that once again. We can do better. We must do better, or we should all just get the hell out of here if you can. That has been Cliff's note